Ian Watson writes, he wasn't a socialist, he was a very naughty boy.
Welcome, Kameraden, to a new segment that we are going to call Funkmeldung. And what we're doing is we're going to, for the very first time in the Klovekorn the Relic Hunter series, we're going to reply to messages. Welcome, Simon.
Hey.
Are you well?
Very well. How are you, Henry?
I'm good. Let's
Good.
start this off as we always do with a drink.
Well, may as well.
Today, something special.
Oh, yeah.
This is wine that I've made myself.
Wine? You made wine?
I made wine.
Wow.
Hand-picked and obviously fermented, 2 stages of fermentation.
Wow.
You will notice there's a special sealer that I created, and it's actually a special secret formula that I have.
Okay.
Carbon, so that when reduction occurs in the wine and there's gaseous exchange,
Yeah.
when oxygen, which is needed for maturation, enters the wine, it actually is filtered on the way in.
Right.
And
Very
yeah, okay, that's my own personal trademark idea, that one. It is a bit messy. Actually, I'll give that job to you.
All right.
It's a job to do. That's great. Your day so far, Simon?
So far, so good.
Okay.
About to get even better.
It's about to get interesting. This may not be the best wine you've had. If it's a good wine, I'll go big. And big shout out to my neighbour Richard for the supply of the tooling required to open the bottle of wine. And also a big hello to,
Just gonna,
yeah,
we don't want any of that falling back into the bottle.
no we don't. Big shout out to Pat, who of course assisted me in the making of this wine, particularly the grape crushing thereof. So what we'll do is we're going to look at these messages. I receive hundreds of messages from both adoring fans and enemies, and sometimes. Oh,
Yeah, who's the wheeze?
actually, what's the cork on the? What's the cork like? Yeah, after 2 years.
Smells alright.
Smells okay.
Yeah. Don't know
Okay.
why I'm so surprised, but yeah.
Oh, actually, smells a bit interesting.
Yeah. Smells cool.
American oak. This was 25% free flow, and then the rest was second press. 7 days of fermentation, 2 days of malolactic fermentation. We need to let it air a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
what variety?
It's
Grape.
it's a Shiraz.
The Shiraz, okay. And where are the grapes from?
It's a secret location. The other thing that's important to note here is from my notes, this is actually from the bottom of the barrel, so expect this to be a bit heavy.
Yeah.
Let's just let that sit there. Oh, that smells really interesting. Okay.
Very fruity. Sweet.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
You may have uncovered a
new
talent here.
All right, so we're doing Hitler's House, the Berghof.
Berghof.
It is one of the, well, not best videos, but certainly one of the most viewed videos, put it that way.
So a lot of people with some interest in the video.
There's a lot of people, and I think it has a lot to do with keywords. The fact that the keyword is Berghof, that name is synonymous with Hitler's house in Berchtesgaden in Lower Bavaria there in the Alpine region. And a lot of people are interested in his former home. A lot of people visit his former home. It was of course blown up by the Allies in the 90s because it became a neo-Nazi shrine. They removed everything, and it's still a neo-Nazi shrine.
What are you going to do?
There's a famous scene, I can't remember the year, somebody will tell us, where, was it in the 1920s? Must have been. Maybe the early 1930s. The government of the day banned the SA brown shirts from wearing their famous brown shirts. And they thought this would fix everything.
All right.
They thought the brown shirts would go away. The Nazis would just pack up and go home.
Yep.
And Hitler gave the order to still parade, but not wearing the brown shirts. And there are these very famous photos of these parading Nazis thousands of them in their full uniform, but naked at the top, just their skin, without the brown shirts. The point that was being made there was you can ban a brown shirt, it's not going to do anything, and so they then said, all right, you can wear the bloody shirts again if you're going to keep doing what you're doing. All right, so
Interesting.
Hitler's house, the Berghof.
The Berghof.
I should point out that with the exception of those that I've answered to, I haven't prepared for this. Okay, it's an open, transparent discussion. For those that I haven't seen, that I haven't replied to, this is the first time that I will be hearing the messages as Simon reads them out, and Simon will also contribute where he feels necessary and wishes to. And some of the comments I'm sure will be positive and some will be negative. Some will be asking more questions, which is of course the whole idea of Funkmeldung, and it's all about learning.
Negative and positive.
Simon, do them all. Whatever it is, just let's be transparent about it. Well, why is it all negative?
Well, no, the first one's quite, I suppose negative you could put it.
Right.
But hey, look, we're going to be open and honest about everything. We might as well take the good with the bad. Let's address the bad.
Did I respond to this one?
No, you haven't responded.
Right, so I haven't seen it.
Here we go. I've never heard such dross in all my life. Hitler incorporated the word socialist into the party name and helped pull the workers' vote. He wasn't a socialist or a left-wing radical. The left was persecuted and sent to concentration camps when he gained power. He announced May Day as the workers' bank holiday and the next day abolished trade unions. He was far right.
Okay. Mr. Walker, I think there's an area in my video where I refer to Adolf Hitler as having some left-wing views or words to that effect. It's become a very controversial thing that I've said in my channel. And current day thinking is Nazis are all right-wingers. And you go to any university, you go to any school, this will be the sentiment. Nazis are right-wingers. So for me, in a publication such as this video with my channel, which is gaining some popularity, to say he had left-wing views is a very controversial thing to say. What Mr. Walker is saying there is certainly reflective of how the current media and the current education system reports on National Socialism. Let me think of a response, because this is actually this is going straight into it. First comment is serious. It's serious stuff now.
We're just tearing open the wound here and having at it. What I think. I mean, look, I would view, when you're looking at the left and right in this sort of social political context, not in an economical context, right would be no power for the people, total dictatorship, people don't matter. We're all about making money, purely capitalist, extreme capitalist, like you're seeing in America these days. And what I'd see as being the left was being about the people. Now, what I will say is that Hitler showed that what he was pushing, what he was changing was for the people, his people, German people, to make Germany better. He was, you're going to slap me for this one, but he was essentially the Trump of his time. Let's make Germany great again. After the World War I, it got completely decimated, financially, economically, weren't allowed to have military. All these things were put in place from losing the war. And he wanted to get Germany back on its feet and wanted the workers people to be happy. One thing I learnt recently was that one of the first people in the world to ban the use of asbestos was Adolf Hitler.
Right, really?
In that he knew it was bad. Everyone's known asbestos is bad for a long time. It's just, I think we've taken a long time to sort of catch on to that here in Australia, but we're not the worst. The Canadians are worse than us still. That he knew it was bad, didn't want his workers getting these lung diseases and stuff that were associated with asbestos, so banned the use of it across the country in wanting to keep the workers healthy, happy. And I think that is a very left-wing, very socialist kind of
I was going to say
thought.
It's a very progressive thing.
Very progressive thing, but very caring about the people, caring about the workers, and the workers as you can either see it as love for his people or workers as tools for the government for Germany. Either way, take it as you will, but that sort of view of putting people above corporations, above profits, above anything else, I think is a very left wing. Another thing is that I think because when they joined with Italy, that Italy were very much an open about being fascists. That was their movement, they were pro-fascist. They were a fascist movement, a fascist political party, and therefore joining automatically, Hitler was aligning himself with the fascists, and so this word fascism got branded across the Nazis as well. So I think there's a bit of bad publicity there in choices of who they linked with, but
well, let me respond to
my thoughts anyway.
To Graham and the good thoughts, Simon. Mr. Walker. I agree with you on a number of your points. Yes, the National Socialists did put a lot of left-wingers in jail. I agree with that point. They also put a lot of right-wingers in jail. I think the best way for me to describe, apart from what you've just said, is look at the 25-point plan of the National Socialist Party. I think that was released 24th of February 1921, thereabouts. Hitler gave a speech. This is the early days of National Socialism in the Hofbräuhaus, the famous Hofbräuhaus in Munich. And not enough attention is brought to the 25-point plan by the National Socialists, the Nazis. We don't have time here to go through all 25 points, but I recall a couple of points now. One is the abolition of Roman law. Roman law, so Germany for 1,000+ years was working under Roman law. The Holy Roman Empire under the German nation had given its power to the clergy and had given its power to the monarchs, landholders, and the people were kept poor and penniless and without power. The removal of this Roman law and to put in place civil law, common law, and the idea behind that was to go against the grain, to go against the establishment, and give people back the power and the wealth that is rightfully so. To me, a very left-wing progressive concept. Another one is that I recall from the 25-point plan is the abolition of child slavery. That's very left. That's super left. The abolition of child slavery, it's in the 25-point plan. Another one is the expansion of old age services and pensions. That's a very left-wing thing to do. If you go through the 25-point plan, there's a whole bunch of things there. I think another one is we demand the complete renewal of the education system so that poor children get an education. That's a left-wing view. It's a progressive view. It's an anti-establishment view.
Absolutely.
And there's more in the 25-point plan. But the sentiment there is we look at Nazis as purely right-wing. Simon gave one definition of right-wing. Perhaps another one would be religiously conservative. And there's lots of different types of interpretations between the left and the centre, the moderates and the right wing. But clearly, just by those few points that I've mentioned, if you look at the facts, the 25-point plan, and you read that very carefully, a lot of those things are actually for the time, we need to contextualize it, we need to frame it. For the time, these were, in my view, and I will hold firm on this, left-wing radicals, because they were going against the establishment, and the establishment was the church, the establishment was the monarchy. Even though the monarchs had abdicated 1919, they were still the landowners, they were still in charge, they were still, they had the wealth. There's another thing, which is that the profits of wholesalers should be redistributed to the poor, or words to that effect. In other words, giving small businesses a chance. And not allowing these big bulk purchases to control and make monopolies in the sense of trade. And if there is a monopoly, then the profits from that monopoly to be shared equally. Hello, is that not left wing if ever I saw left wing?
Very much.
All right. So anyway, some food for further thought, Graham.
On that point too, just as I said before about the bad press that probably it gets, is that also, along with Italy being fascist, the Soviets kind of hijacked the word socialism
Yeah.
and applied it to Marxist communism.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference between being a communist, a full Marxist communist, and socialism. Whereas one of the other things I know we've talked about before was the scheme they had about earning a car.
Yeah.
Where workers, you work so many days or weeks or whatever, you build up your stamps in your book and get yourself a bill.
Yeah, the
Basically.
Freudewagen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Which was a government-funded campaign.
The communist socialists, so the communists, there was no private land ownership. Under the Nazis, you could still have private land ownership. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's just my recollection, but again, the 25-point program wanted to abolish land tax, and it's freeing up. It's giving people back the power, left wing.
Yeah.
Next comment. But thank you, Graham. And Graham, you may still disagree with me. But hopefully some of the things that we've said perhaps add some further perspective.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great point that he makes because it opens up the conversation.
I think it does.
Yeah,
Shall we try this wine?
Oh, well, let's try the wine.
It's a bit funky. Wow.
I've certainly paid for well worse than that.
Wow.
That's a good drop.
That's interesting, isn't it?
You've done well.
What is that?
I know, but it's drinkable. It's a little bit fruity, a little bit sweet. Not too sweet, but it's a delicate flavour. But there's definitely a bit of a.
It's got a fair amount of alcohol in it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a punch there.
Actually, the second sip is even better because now I'm getting the tannins.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay.
Well, I've heard some big label winemakers tout their stuff that's shit compared to this.
Klovekorn the Relic label is coming out.
Klovekorn the winemaker. Speaking of beautiful things,
Right.
Isla Sky wrote, I lived in Heidelberg for several years as a child and visited Berchtesgaden in 1980. It is indeed a breathtakingly beautiful place. I cannot argue with that. It is one of my favourite places in the world. The end of the comment.
Thank you, Isla. Lovely comment.
Lovely comment, and wholeheartedly agree.
Totally agree.
It's God's country up there. It's beautiful views from the hilltops, the mountains, the forests, the lakes, everything about it.
The glacial waters running down the streams and its turquoise, colour.
The lovely farms around, it's still functioning.
Unbelievable place.
Now the next one, my German's not great. Here's his. So
Well,
I'll let
it's
you
German,
read that
isn't it?
one.
It's German.
It looks German to me,
It's like German.
isn't it?
Just the
Yes,
first
it
word
is.
is Nationalsozialismus. Oh, okay, hang on.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so there's a bit further in that's...
Nationalsozialismus ist eine im Ansatz linke Ideologie. He's saying, Elke, it's a lady, Elke Faber is saying National Socialism is, in its initial concepts, a left ideology.
Well, there we go. Thank you.
Elke.
Okay.
That makes 3 people in the world who are questioning the right-wing roots of National Socialism. However, she continues, socialism is left, but modern socialists are globalists and not nationalists like the Nazis. And then she writes in German, die Gewinner schreiben die Geschichte, the victors write the history books. And then she says it again in English, the winners write the history narratives. Well, Elke, appreciate that comment.
Yeah.
It's actually a support of what's been said, which is...
And very true, the winners write the narrative. It's,
that's very true. Yes.
yeah. Ian Watson writes, he wasn't a socialist, he was a very naughty boy. Got a fellow hyphenist in the room. Good old
Ian, are you British? There's a sense of humour there that's very British. Love it. I love it. That's great.
If you've never watched The Life of Brian, I suggest you do so.
Yes.
Mission Past wrote, they should build a large platform up there to reproduce the amazing views. Also open the tunnels that lead up to that point.
Yeah, right. Okay. But then you can't charge for it, then the state doesn't get any money, I guess.
Well, is it the state getting money anyway?
Then all the National Socialists will go up there and start...
So the neo-Nazis will definitely come back and
Yeah.
start ruining the place again.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Yep, it's a fair point.
Blue 3 writes, great document. Thanks, the remnants of the era are fascinating. And that's exactly why we're here.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a positive comment, and it's Blue is, I guess, suggesting that by doing a video showing what the Berghof looks like today is what people are actually interested in, and that's what that video is all about. Thank you.
Yeah. And the remnants of this era are fascinating, and we've done many videos on those, so I hope you've watched them all, Blue. Laurie Hogue, don't ever try to post facts here because you will be attacked if the truth contradicts this man's beliefs. Sad.
Hang on, just say that again.
Don't ever try to post facts here because you will be attacked if the truth contradicts this man's beliefs.
If the truth contradicts
your beliefs.
So what's he actually saying?
Laurie, I think, would be female, I guess, I'm not sure. Laurie, is saying that obviously maybe perhaps she tried to post something at one point and she's been attacked as being wrong. Feels that I guess that other people have tried to post their facts, their views, and have been shot down. Maybe a friend of Graham's.
Don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean,
Laurie, let us know exactly what you meant by that, and we'll follow that up.
We do like open discussion about things. We know it's a very starting to get some of your chuckle at me. It is a very controversial topic.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have different views. Some people choose to look a little more deeply into things, I think, like we do, and try and find where fact meets fiction. And
which is why I didn't just want to reply to Graham with, oh, this is my views, my opinion. I want to go back to the 25-point plan, 24th of February, early 1920s, and go, here we go, whatever I said, 6-7 points, clearly left wing. If you want to argue the facts, let's argue the facts.
Yeah, it's good to have these discussions though. FG Cody writes, the large window in the main hall could be lowered into the castle, mate, not raised. Everyone who knows the history of the Berghof knows that. Better check your info next time.
Sorry, name again?
FG Cody.
Cody, you're right. And when I get things wrong, I put my hand up and say I got it wrong. I got that wrong. Of course, the window went down, not up. But how much did we cover in a short period of time?
A lot.
I think we made that video in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
With you know, we don't have big camera crews. There's not a lot of prepping going on. 99.98% is just off my head, talking what I know, and sometimes in the heat of the moment, you know, up, down. The point was the big picture window is movable, and you could move it, yes, down, so that you could have this amazing vista without glass being in front of you. That was the point I was trying to make. It does go down. Thank you for correcting us. Stand corrected happily.
Yes, and despite what Klovekorn thinks, he is in fact human.
Yes.
And gets things wrong.
Yes. Ask any one of my ex-wives, they will tell you I get things wrong occasionally.
Bopana writes, amazing to think how things can change so dramatically as time goes by. It certainly can.
Indeed.
Well, I mean, how long was the Berghof actually intact and standing for? I mean, built in, was it 38, 40?
Yeah,
ish.
I'm sure I stated in the video,
probably,
I can't quite recall. It took quite a while to, and I think there were a number of renovations taking place over time with certain additions. And then of course in early 45 it was bombed, and that was meant to be potentially one of the last locations for the Führer to travel. Fortress Europe was a key term that was being used, but of course he decided to stay in Berlin. It wasn't really around for too long. And what's really interesting, it's a little bit like if you go to Stonehenge, slight tangent, go to Stonehenge. This is Stonehenge. And there's a highway there, and all the tourists park nearby, and they all walk around Stonehenge, and then they take a few photos and they leave again. And Stonehenge is incredible. However, it's not just Stonehenge. outside of Stonehenge, some distance away, I can't remember the exact meterage, but say it's 500 meters, there's another henge. And it's a henge made up out of old tombs. And those tombs or burial mounds used to have some sort of white calcium deposit so you could see. Would have been an amazing sight, not just the henge itself, but the double and triple henges that were emanating out from it. And it's a little bit the same with the Berghof. It's not just the Berghof that's interesting, it's the entire ants nest underneath the Berghof, which is still there. It's Bormann's house, his private secretary. It's Goering's house, which is gone, but it was close. It's Albert Speer's house, which is still there today. They haven't demolished that for some reason. It's a private residence, of course, his architect and armaments minister, who served time in jail and then got out and wrote a famous book.
Of course, the famous tea house.
The tea house.
Right there, still standing.
Yes, well, the Molana Kopf, his actual tea house, which is below the Berghof, was demolished. And then what we now call the tea house, which is the Kehlstein house, which is a tourist attraction. What an amazing place that is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
They had a theatre that Hitler had built for the workers who were working there. There was a couple of townships so that the staff who was supporting the operation of the Führer could live. They had their own houses so that they simply cycled or walked to work every day. They had a film room. They had a creche, a children's creche was in the Berghof for those workers who were falling pregnant naturally and had to, talk about socialism, probably one of the first in the world to have a work creche, right, where the babies were looked after, and then they would pick up their kids and then would go home. So the Berghof is not just the Berghof, it's the whole Führer complex, which is interesting. Sorry, we'll keep going.
Lucky says, wow. I'm guessing it's a good wow.
Okay. Thanks, Lucky.
And Sherlock, your pronunciation of the German words you say in the video is very good. Respect. Best greetings from Germany.
Who's that from?
Sherlock.
Sherlock. Der Grund, warum mein Deutsch so gut ist, weil ich in Deutschland geboren worden bin. Aber Dankeschön.
Here we have a very long thread. Begins with a Mr. Leon Hughes. Mr. Hughes states, Hitler wasn't a socialist.
That's it again.
Extremely poor commentary at the start.
Right.
We are told the Berghof was not fitting for an emperor due to his political views. Have you seen the planned Führer's palace in the New Berlin? Fitting for an emperor indeed.
Oh, hang on, just let me comment on that. It's Leon. Leon is referring to the comment that I made in the video where I say, Hitler, one of the wealthiest, most influential, powerful people in the world at the time, he could have built himself a massive palace and lived in that. And what I say in the video is he didn't. That he wanted to portray himself as a man of the people. He wanted to live a little bit more of a frugal life. I mean, look at his uniform. Look at Gaddafi's uniform, and these other dictators. They've got all this metal and gold and braiding. Hitler just had a very simple uniform with his Iron Cross and his black wounded badge. He wasn't trying to, the way he presented himself, this is going to be another controversial comment, big note himself. And he also wanted the Berghof not to be overly palatial. It was a very nice house, it was an impressive place, but it wasn't overly palatial. And the message there was, in line with the 25-point program, the money should go to the people. This is in the backdrop of King Ludwig and others who had Castle Neuschwanstein built at some exorbitant cost, and the people were suffering. And Leon is saying, but Klovekorn the Relic Hunter, what about this mammoth headquarters in Berlin? It's a completely different thing, Leon. The headquarters in Berlin is an official headquarters for the state, where you have official receptions, where you have pageantry, and it's in Berlin. It belongs to the people. It was paid for by the state, for the state. It has a state function. So of course it was going to be palatial.
So it's essentially the White House of Berlin.
It's the White House of Berlin.
It's not
no. Whereas
Biden's personal...
Yeah. Whereas the state did not pay a single Reichsmark for the Berghof. Hitler paid for the Berghof. How did Hitler pay for the Berghof? Is it from plundering around the world like the British? No.
Ooh.
No, he paid for it through sales of his book Mein Kampf. That's how he paid for it. And we know that
Really?
because we have access to all of the financial records of the Nazis. So I think there's a difference. But thank you for your comment, Leon.
We'll just throw a few other comments here that people have written back to Leon. Balthorium writes, Leon, yes he was. NSDAP's socialism, numerous quotes of Hitler attacked capitalism and espound racist socialism. So it looks like there's a bit of a contest between these two. Maybe we should move on to
We'll move on.
a bit of a technical construction question here for you.
Right.
From TC. Rebar or reinforcing bar, not rods. Rebar has been in use since the 15th century.
Right. Thank you, TC, for the comment.
James Allen writes, the big window you refer to was in the centre of the main house, was in German Versenkbar,
Versenkbar, which means to lower.
which means capable of being lowered. There you go.
Everyone's picking up on the faults. Thank you, everyone.
So the window would effectively disappear into the bottom part of the frame when it was desired to open the room to the air.
Yeah.
And Class writes, this window was kept closed most of the time because of its location directly above the garage. Gasoline fumes would enter the living room via the window. A design flaw from the Führer himself.
What?
Since he was the architect of the house.
Hey, that's a great piece of information.
That is
Thank
a
you.
great piece.
It's really interesting. We're always learning. Actually,
It's
if you look at that lounge area with the big window, if you look at some of the old photos after the bombing, where everything's been burnt out, you'll notice that on one side there are these holes in the wall, and that's because right next to that big picture window room was a film room, and they had a film projector set up hidden away, and they would move the tapestry. And Hitler was a great lover of movies, and obviously wanted to see reels from the Propaganda Amt and Progress on the front. So yes, they had a projector just behind that wall, and it would project across the room onto the wall. They would have to remove the wall hanging, the tapestry, and they were essentially watching cinematic TV in that room. Interesting.
Here we go from Turkey 01. With the public fascination of the Berghof, what is there to stop somebody somewhere using computer-generated plans rebuilding Hitler's Berghof right down to the cornerstone of the famous house?
Turkey.
Who's there to stop it?
What a
I could
preposterous
just
idea this
see
is.
Angela Merkel's terrified reaction to that. Nothing. Turkey, nothing is stopping you. I mean, anyone from rebuilding this house.
Turkey could be you. It could be anyone. It's a bit like the brown shirt scenario, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people in Texas or other places that are very keen to do that, or perhaps they already have, and we just don't know about it.
Well, there's that. Another one here from Chief IVU attacking the socialist point, but we'll allow this one because there is a point here from a reply that I find quite poignant. Hitler was neither left-wing nor a socialist. And Damia writes, well, no one really is or was left-wing nor a socialist, nor right-wing nor a capitalist. People are just people, driven by their passions.
Yeah, that's very true. I think what we'll find is that the reality is people have some left-wing views, some right-wing views, some moderate views, depending on what the issue may be.
Absolutely. Kaiser Soze writes, that relic just looks like a lump of concrete with reinforced bars coming out of it. All exterior finishes were of stone, even the cappings. It's clear from the video and photos if you know what you're looking for.
No, Kaiser, I disagree. Kaiser's talking about the capping that was found
As in the top of the stone wall.
the top
capping?
of the stone wall. So, okay, so there is the famous terrace. And we know the terrace is famous because Eva Braun, or I should say Eva Hitler, Hitler's wife, Eva, she loved Super 8 movies, and she was taking private Super 8 movies all the time. And so we have this wonderful collection from Eva of dignitaries visiting and ambassadors, heads of state visiting Hitler, and obviously his staff and Bormann and the Nazi elite would come, and family members and children would play on this terrace. Blondie, his dog, there's a couple of great photos of Blondie with his paws on the capstone. And I have very, very carefully looked at the capstone, and it's not made out of stone, it is poured concrete. But perhaps it's another one of those left versus right wing theories that we'll just have to agree to disagree on.
Well, there's another theory here from Justin Jones. Didn't the Austrian government dump tons of rubble onto the Berghof to fool relic hunters?
Yes, indeed. Perhaps they did.
Perhaps they did.
Yeah, perhaps they did. That sounds like a conspiracy theory. I can tell you right now, the Austrians, if you know anything about Austria, is they would not spend a cent on moving rubbish from Austria to Germany. I mean, that wouldn't work with the German environmental laws in any case. Then you'd have to council issues with dumping. There's just issues galore with that, what I would call a conspiracy theory. No.
And the last one we have access to here at the moment from Leonard Ferguson. Very interesting. I've read so much about this area recently. I will visit the area soon. Now that was 3 years ago, so Leonard, I hope you do visit the area.
Yes.
It's a beautiful place. The countryside there is absolutely breathtaking.
Perhaps the Bavarian government should consider sponsoring Klovekorn the Relic hunter, because clearly we're having an effect on the level of tourism that's being brought about. Sketchstone hunts. So thank you for your comments. Thank you, Simon, for your comments, your insights, and people of the channel. You can see the comments are important. We've learned something.
Yeah.
We have an opinion. You have an opinion. Share your comments. Share, like, and subscribe.